Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Trinidad and Tobago retains Central Bank Governor for another 3 years. This story takes the lead in our 1012th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 22nd December 2020. Details when we return. Welcome back. Trinidad and Tobago Central Bank Governor Alvin Hilaire will remain in the post for another term, as the government has not yet found someone else who fits the bill. In the meantime, 3 deputy governors are to be appointed. There is an expectation that at least one of them will be ready to take up the mantle in 2023. TV6's Renessa Cutting has the details.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Alvin Hilaire will continue in the post for another 3 years, while government seeks a suitable replacement.
Cabinet agreed on my recommendation to reappoint Dr. Alvin Hilaire as governor of the central bank for a term of 3 years. This means that Dr. Hilaire's term as governor will be 8 years in total.
Government will also be moving to appoint Dr. Dorian Noel, UE Finance lecturer, as one of 3 deputy governors to allow for an easier transition process when Dr. Hilaire retires in 2023.
And there are 2 other positions of deputy governor, which the government will be filling within the next couple of months, so that we would have options of 3 deputy governors, all of whom could be considered to become governor in 2023 when Dr. Hilaire emits office, or we would also have the option of looking outside.
The finance minister says government has been searching the globe for suitable replacements for Dr. Hilaire with minimal success.
It's all a question of timing sometimes. You catch somebody, the person is perfectly qualified, but they're building a career in the international world and they want to spend some time overseas before they come back to Trinidad to do public service. In Trinidad and Tobago as well, it's difficult to find people who would fit the bill.
The finance minister says government will have to have a, quote, stronger connection with the central bank moving forward. But he assures that in selecting a central bank governor, it is not about friends and family.
We require much deeper collaboration now between the government and the central bank. It's going to be all hands on deck. We're in a very, very difficult situation financially, and we will have to now use a combination of fiscal policy and monetary policy going forward to see how we could get our economy to grow. So we have to be very careful how we select these governors. They can't be just selecting someone on the basis of friendship or paper qualifications. We have to pick people who could assist country.
Renessa Cutting, TV6 News.
Have you been receiving messages via WhatsApp, Facebook, or even Twitter telling you all the reasons based on your ethnicity why you should not take the COVID-19 vaccine? Well, it may just be ethnic targeting by anti-vaxxers, and according to the Health Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, it may be a lot of scientific hogwash. Here is more with Urvashitawari Rupnarayan of TV6 News.
A survey done by Britain's Royal Society for Public Health says persons of Black, Asian and ethnic minority backgrounds are less likely to take the COVID jab. Christina Marriott, Chief Executive of the Society, says that's because anti-vaccination messaging have been specifically targeting those groups. The problem is, those minority ethnicities make up the majority of the Caribbean population. These messages have already been received. Health Minister Terence Yalsing had the cause to point out what he called scientific hogwash to his team as captured by the Express's man on the street.
One person, one Trinidad and Tobago, one Trinidadian and Tobagonian on Brian Lara Promenade actually repeated a right-wing conspiracy theory about vaccines that was born in the United States, and that is the vaccine has a chip which the government inserts into you so we can track you. Now that is total scientific hogwash, but in the mind of a person, that is their reality.
And that's why the Health Ministry has begun a series of focus groups to counter false and misleading messaging.
So that is why we have to do these detailed detailed focus groups to find out what is the Trinidadian population thinking. 2, where are they getting their messaging from? It's mainly social media. Who are they looking up to as opinion leaders? And it's when we understand that, and we hope to have that completed hopefully by the middle of January, then we will tailor our messaging to suit.
In the meantime, plans are afoot for TNT to be ready to receive, store, and distribute the vaccines. That means having sub-zero storage capacity. In the case of the Pfizer vaccine, which is not currently on the COVAX facility, a temperature of minus 72 degrees is required. And in the case of Moderna, minus 20 degrees. The freezers have been identified.
They are currently being commissioned and or recommissioned, serviced. So in case we get the Pfizer vaccine, even as early as January, we can store it at minus 72. So I'm happy to report on that. In case we receive a vaccine that has to be stored at minus 20, we already have in country, in the public health sector, 2 sub-zero minus 20 freezers at the Urema hospitals. That can be used as early as today.
Tender packages for the chillers to house the freezers at the Couva facility went out this week, with readiness at the location carded for mid-February. Inspections have been ongoing cross-country to determine suitable vaccination sites.
What we are doing, based on the current evidence, we are choosing sites that have resuscitation capacity in case, in the unlikely event that someone should have an adverse reaction, these sites must have resuscitation equipment.
The Pan American Health Organization says the region is expected to receive vaccines in March.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Over in Barbados, Minister of Health and Wellness Jeffrey Bostic had a special word for hoteliers. Tourism is your business, and we need you to play your part, but in more ways than one. While you have attracted and welcomed visitors to our shores, please pull your weight and make sure they respect and adhere to our protocols. Quarantine is quarantine. There is nothing ambiguous about the word. People who are in quarantine should remain in quarantine until the relevant authority says otherwise. Bostic was giving a pre-Christmas COVID-19 update on Sunday, where he also mentioned 6 positive cases of novel coronavirus that were recorded in the COVID-19 update on Saturday, December 19th. In relation to these 6 cases, Bostic said 3 involved a single non-Barbadian family. They have been in contact with a known case according to the Ministry of Health update. Bostic said there are potential developments in this matter and the country would be updated if necessary. The minister also urged hotel workers to speak up if they saw something, repeating his well-known "we are all in this together" phrase. With the opening of our borders to air and cruise traffic and the accompanying increase in visitor arrivals for the winter tourist season, it is expected that our surveillance and testing will pick up more cases. We must continue to be ever vigilant and not drop our guard. It is therefore important that every Barbadian plays his or her part and cooperate with public health officials so as to ensure that we do not have local and community spread, especially during the Yuletide season, the minister said. In the meantime, Jeffrey Bostic warned shoppers, hoteliers, and businesses ahead of the frenzied last days of Christmas preparation in a COVID-19 environment and against the backdrop of 14 new cases in the last 2 days. As we get set to commence this week of Christmas preparations, I urge each of you to be on your guard. Already in the past 24 hours, we have heard of 8 new cases, and as Minister of Health and Wellness, I have the authority to notify you that already today we have confirmed 6 additional ones. 3 of these involved a single non-Barbadian family. There are potential developments. Bostic was speaking a day after UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced a lockdown of several areas in the UK to combat the rapidly spreading strain of the coronavirus, a move that is likely to have an impact on Barbados' winter tourist season. Bostic said the next 8 to 12 weeks will be testing with the opening of our ports to air and cruise traffic. It is expected that our surveillance and testing will pick up more cases. We must continue to be ever vigilant. Reports that former President David Granger ordered the cell phone of former Minister of Public Security wiretapped is malicious, and the publishers of the article will be sued for libel. Here are the details from HGP Travis Chase.
And you know what? They could go and ask those 37 people or those 50 people who got licenses whether they pay Ramjatan one dime. Or ask all the others for the previous years whether they ever paid Ramjatan one dime.
It's fake news. Libelous and scandalous were exactly the words used by former Public Security Minister Kemraj Ramjatan as he responded to reports that weeks after the March 2 general and regional elections, the executive of the coalition government under then President David Granger had ordered the surveillance of him and that his phone be wiretapped. Both former President Granger and the Commissioner of Police Leslie James have related to the former minister that they knew nothing of what is being reported.
The thing really got to me, so I immediately called them, and they denied that they ever did that. Mr. James and President Granger. And so I am very annoyed.
Although the correspondence on this matter was not made public, and the usually reliable sources could not verify that such a document exists, the article published sought to link the former minister to have been allegedly involved in a number of illegal practices linked to gun licenses and robberies, among other activities.
Where this nasty insinuation by the Kaichur News that indeed we were... The insinuation is clear that Ramjatan selling firearm license for $1 million. You know, I have never ever taken any money for any firearm license, and Glenn Lal of all person from Kaichur News should know that.
The document purports that the intelligence arm of the Guyana Police Force Special Branch were allegedly given orders to intercept the phone of Ramjatan.
Now, even if they did any tapping, because assuming, let me say, Granger is lying on me when he tell me that no, he'd have nothing to do with it, or the Commissioner of Police said that they lie. This is something that is very confidential. You do not go now because Ramjatan asking questions about trawler license that you're going to get so mad at cameras that you're going to do all kind of nonsense like that to sully my reputation. And not only he did it, but Leroy Smith from Big Smith News that called me to verify. And I told Big Smith, I am totally unaware of all this nonsense you're talking about. So he also will hear from my lawyers.
Ramjatan has signaled that he intends to take to court those responsible for publishing the article. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.